First question is from Jimmy. Jimmy in KL. And the question is, what's the best way to measure my success? All right, so this is a good question because it's about that first thing I told you guys is, what is the measure of your success, right? You know, your measure of success is not based upon the greatest people you see out there. Like someone who, say someone does cure cancer, that's not the measure of success, which means, because if that is, then anyone who doesn't cure cancer is not successful as a doctor. And if we think about that, that doesn't make any sense, right? Which means that you have to sit down and look at yourself. And in those three areas, like we're talking purely right now only in your career, like professional success. Let's just look at that as one example. Is you have to be able to make a living. So you have to think to yourself, is how much is enough for you to make a living, right? Also, how much you strive to become better and excellent in it. And also, the third thing you have to understand is it meaningful to you, right? How meaningful is it to you? Right? And that's something that the three things you want to kind of assess while you're thinking about yourself and saying, what would be my measure of success? But it's something that's going to change with time. It will change with time. Because, put it this way, when you strive for excellence, you get better and better at something, then you understand yourself as you might deserve more than what you have right now. But it's something that you should start with a measure. And the measure shouldn't be started with the best of the best of the best. Like for me, as these talks or like podcasts, there's no way my starting measure of success is going to be $30 million a year. Because then I would never be successful in my life. Ever. All right? So you have to understand yourself in this one. Okay? And it's going to take some time. Let's go to Gervin. Gervin in Athens, Georgia. The question is it bad if I want to become like another person? Okay, so we'll kind of differentiate because there's two different things. There's one is to admire, no, not admire, what's the word? Aspire. Aspire and admire are two different things, okay? So admiring is okay. Like you look at someone and you're in, like that stage 5. You, oh wow, you're happy for them, you admire what they do. But to be someone is actually something that is quite impossible. You can be like them is different, right? Yeah, like if you want to be a great soccer player like Cristiano Ronaldo, then what people do is like one person I look at who's very much like this was Kobe Bryant. You know, he passed away this year. But Kobe Bryant, his idol was Michael Jordan, and he just learned and learned. But the one thing you'll see that when Michael Jordan talks about Kobe is, yeah, Kobe did learn a lot of things from him, but he made it his own, right? So he wasn't trying to get the same house. He wasn't trying to take the same number. You know, Jordan's 23, and Kobe Bryant was number 8. And even before number 8, he was also 8 and 24, right? So he was 2 different numbers complete. He still wanted to be himself. The goal is not to be someone. The goal is you can be inspired by someone and become like them, right? Because I would say too, like for myself as being a Christian, someone who believes in God, I don't aspire to be Jesus, because I don't think it's ever going to happen. But I am inspired to be like Jesus, seeing the things he does and doing things in a similar way, being the best version of myself. Okay, so I hope that helps you out with that. Let's go all the way over to Lilia in Germany. Oh, Lilia, we've been seeing her a couple times these last couple of talks. So should I compare myself with my earlier self? That is something that a lot of people do suggest, and I do think that's good. But I think a better thing that you should do is you should compare yourself to your progress more than your old self, right? Because a lot of times like, for instance, my earlier self, sometimes you can't see progress. Like, you can't see the difference. Like, you can't see it. Like, for instance, one thing that I try to change in myself is like, hey, don't be too hasty in judgments, right? Or changing my character, like, oh, don't get angry so fast, right? And what happens is if you look at yourself from a month before, it's very hard to see the difference because it's so short. But what I look at is progress. Progress is, well, you know, before I got mad like 4 times last month, but this time I only got mad 3 times this month. That's progress, right? So I really believe, because a lot of things that we try to change ourselves from, sometimes there's not enough to actually see change. And I think what's more important is to look at yourself from the progress that you're making. Like, hey, I exercised, which means I ran, You know, like someone might look at you and say, well, you know, you wanted to lose 20 pounds, right? But you still haven't lost any weight yet. However, over the last 3 days, you ran 2 minutes more and there's progress, right? You stayed at the gym and you did an extra exercise and that is progress, right? Or you felt like you were you felt like your form in exercising was much better. So that is progress. So comparing yourself to your earlier self, it works when there's like a seeing of change. But like even when we talk about like say losing weight, sometimes you don't even see the change for 3 months, right? You don't even see for 3 months. And that's why it's sometimes better to, I like to look at it is compare yourself to the progress more than the actual self, if that makes sense. All right, thank you, Lilia from Germany. Let's go over to Ichigo. Ichigo in Korea. What experience did you have to realize about comparison? Oh, wow. Well, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've never had like a full comparison as in like my whole life, wow, I realized this. But my realization actually comes from certain aspects of myself changing within the last 2 years. Certain aspects of myself that I've changed. And that I saw that, wow, this person that I'm looking at, it's so inspiring and it makes me want to change. But the thing that was a contradiction of me was, I would look at people at my level and they would be doing just as much change too, but I would look down on them instead. And and I looked at that as a major contradiction, right? Like imagine if for me as a Christian, I look to the Lord, and like, oh yes, oh look at the change, look what he did, and I'm inspired. And then you have someone like who's just like me, who does something so amazing, and I'm not even celebrating it like that either. I'm not celebrating it. It's not that great all of a sudden. Or I might even be angry or jealous at them instead. And I saw the contradiction in myself as, wait, that doesn't make any sense. How can I look at this one aspect and someone else is also changing the exact same aspect, but then one person I look up to and the other person I'm like, who do they think they are? Right? And that's for me is, I really believe looking at something small, you can see bigger things also. And I think in your life too, Ichigo, you should look at the small things that you've changed in your life or small things that inspire you, but also look around. It's like, wow, wait, why does that person inspire me and this person doesn't? Well, usually because you see some people on social media and you don't know what their whole life is like. And since you don't know what their whole life or their character is like, you just think they're like perfect. Like, oh wow, I could be like them. Then someone here, you know what their life is like, or sometimes you get into fights, or sometimes you might not like them. So then all of a sudden you're like, well, they're not perfect, so I can't. But the answer is, they're not perfect either. So it's something that my realization was seeing contradiction in myself, that I would celebrate and be inspired by one person, and then someone else who do the exact same thing, I wouldn't be as inspired, or I would even be envious, which doesn't make sense either, right? And so that's kind of my experience. It was never like a total life thing, right? It was more of I experienced something small, and it made me realize something much, much bigger, if that makes sense. Cool. Let's go all the way over to Rosalind. Rosalind in Singapore. All right. Rosalind in Singapore says, what should I do if I feel depressed instead of being inspired when comparing myself with others? Yeah. And this is, I'm going to say that, Rosalind, this is kind of a normal part of the process. So like, for instance, remember I talked about the 5 stages? It starts with hate and anger. They're better than me. Oh, you don't want nothing to do with them. It goes up to envy and jealousy. And the thing is, we go through this process. We do. And because you have to understand you're going through this process, don't feel guilty for feeling it. Because we need to go through it. Right? We do. We got to go through it. Which means that you have to understand yourself as in, wait, this is part of me growing in understanding this person much better. It's part of the process of growth. Just like when we look on social media, we only see the end result and we think they're perfect or they're awesome. But when you see nowadays, one of the most popular things you see on Instagram is like health. People working out, big muscles, girls with nice bodies. But we got to realize how much effort it took just to get there. And the crazy part is, these people on Instagram doing health with nice bodies and stuff, they're taking pictures of themselves at the gym all the time. But still in our heads like, oh, I wish I could be like that. And the answer is, get in the gym. Their pictures are in the gym every day, right? But we don't realize we're always looking just at an end result. But we have to understand is, even for us growing in the stages to get to the point of inspiration, is not going to be like this. Inspired, right? It just doesn't happen like that. we are growing in it. And the first thing is we have to understand or have the knowledge. So now, Rosalind, you know that, wow, all right, this is a part of the stages that I'm going through. Okay. So right now I'm a little bit depressed and I feel kind of bad. Oh, why am I like this? I'm here, which means that I don't understand this person very well, or I may not understand myself very well. It's like that quote from Augustine, right? People do so many things, go to the highest mountains, cross the widest seas, the deepest oceans, but then they pass by themselves without even wondering, which means a lot of times we do have to start to reflect and focus on ourselves much more than what we see on the outside. And then we'll be able to go through this process of understanding, what is my measure of success? Who is this person? Do I know everything about their life? Why they're like this? Right? No, understanding that everyone is experiencing pain. And the realization of self is, yeah, in the end, I don't need to be them. I like this aspect about them. Wow, and it makes me jealous right now. But I know that I have to get to the point I have to be inspired. So what should I do next? Right? And that is something that you have to slowly grow and progress in. So even having healthy comparisons, just because I'm teaching you this, it doesn't mean it's easy, and it doesn't mean I have healthy comparisons with everyone either. But to first know it means that I can understand where I'm at in the stages and where I still need to go, how much more I need to understand. And a lot of times, like, if you just talk to these people, see what they're going through in life, you'll see they're just the same as you and they become more inspiring. I'm serious. What? You go through that too? Yeah. Oh, wow. And you did this? Yeah, I just worked really hard for it because, this happened in my life. You're like, wow, how did that happen? This is why this last thing I'll talk about, this is the last question. The one thing that, if you look on those audition shows like X Factor and American Idol and what else is it? Got Talent. There's a bunch of these shows, right? And The Voice. The thing that's really inspiring is not so much the person, what they're doing, is when you hear their story first. Like you hear the stories of, I was homeless and this and this. I was kicked out of my house. I was addicted to drugs. And then I changed my life around and I'm coming to American Idol. We're like, what? And then what happens is we look at that and we're inspired. And sometimes it's just a matter of us sitting down with these people and having good talks with them. Or if they're famous or whatever it is, you sit down and you get to understand what their life was like. That's why these documentaries are amazing. Right? Like even in one thing, like when I go to church, what's amazing is when you hear testimonies, what people's lives were like before and after meeting God. For me, that's inspiring. Like, wow, they were like that, but they came here. So that is one thing I do suggest you try out, Rosalind, is like with these people too. If it's someone you know or someone you're maybe not be too close to, talk to them. See what their life is like. And you will find out that when you get to know these people, they become inspiring. Okay? Well, that is the last question for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. Thank you so much for listening in today once again for Bubble Talk. Just to let you guys know, today's the 19th Bubble Talk, which basically means we've got 19 weeks. So congratulations to everyone here. Next week's going to be 20. So I'm super excited about that. All right, everyone, have a wonderful Thursday. And those of you, remember to sign up for the Saturday Bible study, 1 p.m. We'll put that thing in the link once again. Those of you who want to help support the ministry, we have Patreon. And also those of you, first time, if you want to listen to all the other Bubble Talks and Lockdown Tuesdays and whatever not, we have every single one of them on our YouTube page, Espresso with Sky. So make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. All right, everyone, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
We believe in the same God, but we are on different levels.